Hey guys, welcome to Beyond the Tape news segment where we kind of go through a few things that are happening in the industry every month. If you're not familiar with what I do, I am a podcaster, photographer, videographer, and news reporter for a bunch of magazines as well. Host a podcast called Beyond the Tape, and this is just a little video that I like to do every month. Let's jump straight into it. First up, we've got some not team rumours anymore because they're actual signings. First up is a huge one from Oliver Zwa. He has left the union and is now riding for Canyon FMD. This is because Chaos is no longer racing. They had an extra spot, and it's super rad that they've given Oliver Zwa a chance to prove himself, because I think this is going to be a huge year for him. He's settling into the World Cup scene. We've seen some top 10s from him over the last year, so I think he's going to have a huge one. From what I've heard, there's a new Trek team coming out, and Oliver Zwa's brother Ben Zwa is going to be racing Trek with this new team. So huge news for some really quality Australian riders that were overlooked as soon as 3 to 4 years ago, which is huge. We've seen a big story in the form of Lewis Buchanan, an enduro rider who is also a huge media and content star. Now, the website OnlyFans is kind of known for its adult entertainment, but it was originally created for movie stars, for music stars, for athletes to be able to connect with their fans on a more personal basis. Buchanan has signed with OnlyFans. He's got some backlash around it, but I think this is an amazing move for someone to actually reach out to out-of-industry sponsors and try something different. So huge commendation, huge props to Buchanan for trying something new. Sian Ahern has said that she's got some big news coming. I think this is going to be huge. From what I know and what I've seen over the last few months, she is riding better than ever. And 2023 is going to be a year. Watching him get back into focusing on racing, dedicating 100% to the sport is going to be huge. And man, she is one of the most skilled, chilled, yet fast women in Australia by far. So it's going to be huge, and hopefully we'll get some news before Thredbo. Melamed, Jesse Melamed has finally announced his Canyon deal. Finally, all the rumours are put to rest, and the worst kept secret has finally been confirmed, and he is signed with Canyon, which is going to be huge. He's a huge geometry fanboy, loves to deep dive into all his tech, and we know some of those strides are a little bit off with their geometry, so we can't wait to see how he goes on those. Sam Hill was at Buller. I got to meet one of my heroes. It was amazing, but this is also a bit of a confirmation to say that he's gaining UCI points to race downhill, and he's also just trying to get back in the game. He was looking good at Buller, but you could tell he was a bit tentative, and there might still be something wrong with his shoulder. He's going to be at Thredbo with a bunch of other big hitters, so it's going to be interesting to see how he goes there. Not so much team rumours, but a bit of a big change for one team is Trek. The factory team is going to be running Pirelli, and the Roxox SRAM Trek team is going to be running Conti's by the looks of it. Is this because the tyres are still in short supply, or are racers looking for something a little bit better? I'm a huge fan of the Trek tyres. I've never had any issues with them, and they're fast rolling and amazing, but I wonder if they're just looking for that little bit more to eke out performance. Non-racing news, Kyle Straight has signed for Vitus Bikes, so we're going to see a bunch of them snapping at Rampage. In other Canyon news, Canyon are the new Commencal, and they're just going through and signing everyone. We've seen Millie Johnset sign with Canyon Factory Racing. If you don't know, she's actually dating Chaos from FMD, so it's no big news that she would be looking at Canyons and might have actually tested out a few before. This is the first female for Canyon Factory Racing, I believe, so it's cool to see a finally rounded out team with Troy Brosnan, Lucas Shaw, and her. This team is going to be one to beat for sure when it comes to World Cups. We've seen Veronica Windman leave Madison Saracen, and she is joining Louise Ferguson on Nuke Proof Continental, which is Nuke Proof's kind of semi-pro team, their development team. After watching Louise Ferguson ride in Medina, she's going to have a huge year, and having the help of Veronica Widman is just going to help as well. Big news though is Sam Blenkinsop left Norco. I think he's going to leave even if the team dissolved, according to the OTB podcast. He's signed with a smaller company, Crestline, which is no big surprise. And I think I actually called this in my last video. He is going to be developing and helping Crestline create some of the best mountain bikes on the planet. And if I wanted someone to help develop a bike, it's going to be Blinky. He seems really in tune, rides super consistently, and with almost 2 decades of race experience, man, who else could you ask for? So huge things coming out. The Crestline looks a lot like a Forbidden. It's that high virtual pivot bike, so it's on trend, and I think it's going to work well. Now, in bigger kind of local news, judging at what was kind of happening at Buller and some rumors and a few things that have been slid into my DMs, we've got 3 new race teams coming out of Australia. One, don't know the name of, but I know that it's got some big hitters, some pros, some people have been on the race scene for a while, and then some juniors, some really fast juniors. So it's going to be cool to see those juniors learn from the best and take on the World Cups. They are not new to the World Cups though. A couple of them have been around and they're absolutely shredding in 2023, so it's going to be huge. There is a new team called Raw. I don't know who on it. I don't know who's sponsoring it, but yeah, it looks to be released tomorrow, so I'm excited for that one as well. Now, MP Racing, I can't remember their name, Collab Racing, sorry, look to have signed Mario Baldwin, and they were all on intensives at Buller. So I wonder if they're kind of changing things up and going a different direction, but it will be sick to see Mario Baldwin join up with that crew and actually take on the World Cups. He was flying last year. Another one we want to mention as well is Sasha Kim. Sasha is one of the best riders in Australia. He's really chill. It took a 6th at World Champs apparently to realise that he's a good rider. So I'm excited to see what Sasha's doing this year. He's signed with Lusty. He's got a few big brands on board. So huge year coming for Sasha, which is rad. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the industry and industry news that's happening in Australia and worldwide. Obviously, over COVID, we saw a huge demand increase with bikes, kit. Anything to do with bikes just went through the roof. Now, normally a forecaster or someone that kind of predicts what's happening within the industry will go off of the past and realize what's kind of happening, and they'll see the ebbs and flows and be able to predict it correctly. During COVID, we saw this huge boom in the sport, and every country was selling out of bikes, every country was selling out of equipment. But the supply chain was really struggling to keep up. Shops didn't have stock, people weren't able to build stock, people weren't able to make stuff. So we saw this little increase. Now, in economics and in the industry, when it comes to finance, predictions, production, everything like that, sometimes that large or medium to large increase at the consumer level is like a bullwhip. So basically, a small movement at the handle of a whip can lead to a gigantic movement at the end. We all asked why the productions, the facilities, the factories, everyone that was making these products, we were wondering why they didn't just ramp up everything. And the main reason is because they could kind of predict this bullwhip effect. They saw that it was a bubble, they saw that it was a small movement, and it might actually just be a short movement, so they didn't increase productions hugely. However, as we saw the demand at the consumer level, it grew at the shop level. So the shops wanted to make more money. That's what they're there for. They are a business. They would demand more product, more bikes, more clothing, more everything, more tubes, more tires. They would ask suppliers or wholesalers to get as much stuff as possible. The suppliers ramped up everything they could possibly do within reason to create more stock. that stock is now being sent out to distributors, suppliers, wholesalers. But due to increased interest rates, cost of living going up, wars, everything else, everyone's a bit on their toes when it comes to purchasing at the moment. So we've seen that demand stop. But the thing is, like a whip, once that hand is moved, by the time it gets to the end of the whip, it's too late. So now we are seeing this huge back up of product at stores, at wholesalers, and at suppliers, manufacturers, but no one is purchasing it. This might not sound like a bad thing due to us having a bunch of stock and a lot of stuff to purchase, but you got to remember that some of these products were pre-ordered by stores 1 to 2 years before they're seeing it on their door. Now the consumer demand has stopped, the hand has stopped moving at the end of the whip. These stores no longer need or want all this stock, or they're receiving stock on pre-order, they're receiving stuff they've ordered years ago. It's just sitting on this floor. Now, everyone's a business. There's as much kindness as possibly can go around, but if you've ordered stock and you've got it in your store, you kind of have to pay for it. Now, the distributors don't want to have stock laying around either, so they're getting sent stuff that they've ordered. There's big backups there. They've got to pay bills to the factories, to the brands, to everyone else. So we're seeing this huge increase in stock, huge increase in bills for shops and manufacturers, but there's no money coming back into the industry at the moment. So due to this bullwhip effect, we're seeing some stores really quiet down. We're seeing the industry kind of come to a halt. And this is why we're seeing big layoffs. 8% of Specialized worldwide got released from their job last week. We've seen big movement at Wahoo, we've seen big movement at Giant, and we've seen huge movement throughout the industry because we've stopped spending money. So it's going to be a very interesting time for the market and for the industry as people try to pay their bills from a shop and manufacturing level. There is not a huge deal we can do about it other than go and buy stuff, but over the next year or so, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the shops that were open because of the COVID boom, they're going to close. We're going to see a lot of layoffs within the industry, and there's going to be some smaller people hurt because of this. So get out there, support your local bike shops, support the industry, get what you ever need local because there are a few people struggling. And I'm interested to see how this one plays out. COVID was interesting to see that boom, and now we're going to see the aftermath of that. So if you want to learn more, type in bullwhip economic effect on Google and you'll see a bunch of videos and a bunch of stuff explaining this. I think it's quite interesting. Then again, I'm an industry nerd. Tech news is super quick this week. There's a new V10 coming. They released a bit of a production video about it. You can see all the Syndicate team are on one now. I kind of thought there was something coming because we never saw Greg's bike in any of the dive videos in 2022. Interested to see where this bike ends up due to a lot of testing throughout 2021 and 22 from Manar, longer chain stays. We've seen weird things going on with headset cups. And I think they've really found that sometimes too long in the rear or too short up the front or whatever is really taking it too far. So I'm interested to see this bike. I think we might actually see a very minuscule change, probably most in the kinematics. One cool piece of kit that I've really been digging is the Ratio components. I've released a lighter weight carbon cage for your GX Axis derailleur. Thanks to this cage, you might void warranty, whatever, but thanks to this cage, it's lighter and gives you the same performance as an X01 Axis derailleur, but when you buy a GX Axis derailleur and put this cage on, it's actually cheaper. This might be a very short-lived part though, due to the release of some new SRAM stuff coming very soon. If you look at Melament's bike in his photo, he's running a new drivetrain, he's running new brakes, and none of it is very well hidden at all. So I'm very interested to see how this part goes. And again, Williams Racing Products, kicking goals. Mick is, I don't know what he's doing over in New Zealand, but he is coming out with some cool shit. Their gearbox looks very, very, very close to being perfect. He's been riding it. It looks like it's all designed, all manufactured, and its design process looks like it's coming to an end visually. So super keen to see how this thing goes. I think it's a cool, unique way to have one bike to do it all. You can have a gearbox, you can run a standard BB, and you can run an e-bike motor, I guess, in the future. So super keen to see how that goes. In podcast news, we are heading off to Thredbo for Canada Nats, aka Cannibal and Nationals, in about 2 weeks. So bunch of content coming out from that. We're going to see a bunch of really, really cool podcasts coming out. Some of them may include that new teams and some team rumors. And yeah, hopefully I get to meet some of the big hitters like the Syndicate and etc. And then I've also received an invite for Derby. So keen to get down to EWS Derby, shoot some content and hopefully get some episodes out there. Some big episodes coming. I've got about 3 in the bank and in the backlog. So yeah, keep an eye out. Jump over to beyondtape.com, grab some merch, grab whatever. Jump over to buy me a coffee if you just want to donate some money. And yeah, thanks for watching. This was just a short one and we'll touch base soon.